Hey, and welcome back. This is the fifth episode in the series Reclaiming You After Narcissistic Abuse. I have got tons of great content here for you, and I'd love for you to go check out the previous 4 videos. I'll link them in the description below, but for now, stay here because this episode will absolutely change the way you think about healing. If you have ever thought, I can't trust myself anymore, this episode will absolutely change that because learning to trust your instincts again is the heart of real healing, and it starts right here. But first, I'm Janice Holland. I am a licensed therapist in the U.S., a certified trauma model therapist, and the creator of the Courageous Living Framework. I help women step out of performative living where people-pleasing and self-abandonment thrive and into courageous living where your voice leads, your choices align with your values, and your life finally belongs to you. Okay, let's get started. Once our world is rocked by the fallout after ending a relationship with a narcissist, we are initially in total chaos. Everything is falling apart, and this is what I call the shattering. Then we move into what I call the void, the numb, empty middle where you feel totally lost and disoriented, completely unlike yourself. After stumbling around in the void, we move into the awakening, when you start to feel again, hear your own thoughts, and realize, holy crap, I'm still here. I'm still moving forward. Details on those phases are in my previous episodes, but today we are going to focus on what I call the reclamation, where you move from noticing yourself to choosing yourself. Now, I have to say that I am extra excited about this one because this is the phase that trips most women up. Look, we are smart. We read books. We listen to podcasts. I'm sure most of you can explain trauma, you can explain narcissism, CPTSD, boundaries, and abundance. Like, you've done the research, you're watching these videos. We have all the head knowledge, but still feel stuck. And I was in this phase for years. Why? Because we're missing a really important step that we don't even realize exists. That missing step is this reclamation. This is the point in the healing process where understanding has to become embodiment, where everything you've learned up here has to move from your head and into your body, your choices, your daily rhythm. Awakening gives you the language and the understanding, but the reclamation rewires your life. If you've been doing everything right and still feel stuck, this is the piece you've been missing. So I'm really glad that you're here. I want you to lean in and listen close. Reclamation isn't about becoming a new version of your old self. It's about feeling safe to fully express everything that was always yours, your intuition, your time, your body, your joy. In the early phases, your work was understanding trauma, understanding what happened to you, why you were caught up in that chaos to start with. But now it's about integration, living from truth, being more future focused instead of past, not living from fear any longer. This is the phase where you stop looking for external permission and start honoring internal wisdom. Basically, no one can mess with you anymore, and you're not asking anyone's permission to live your life the way you want to. It's when your nervous system learns, I get to be safe, I am safe, and I can be honest at the same time. For years, probably your entire life, your survival depended on disconnection. You learned to override your instincts to keep peace, to stay loved, or to avoid conflict. Every time you felt something was off and ignored it, your body learned, my truth isn't safe. I can't express what I need and still belong. This is especially true for women raised in conservative or religious environments, where compliance and service are praised and self-expression is labeled selfish or sinful. So now, even as you awaken and begin expressing yourself, your nervous system is hesitating. It freezes up. It's learning now that self-expression is safe, but it takes some time to calibrate to that reality. Maybe you're still hearing the whisper, like, don't rock the boat. What are you doing? Keep your mouth shut. That's not weakness. That's conditioning. Inside my Courageous Living 60-day reset, we spend a lot of time right here helping the body relearn authenticity is safe, because self-trust isn't built in your head and your knowledge. It's rebuilt in your body through regulation, repetition, and embodiment. And I want to pause here because this right here is where so many women stop. We think we've been healed because we understand. But listen, understanding is not the embodiment, and information doesn't rewire your nervous system. Here's what I mean. You can know your trauma story backwards and forwards, but still abandon yourself when you're triggered. You can talk about boundaries, but still feel paralyzed actually using them. You can help clients, if you're a therapist or a helper, you can help clients set boundaries all day long and then go home to a partner or job that violates yours. This is the invisible trap of the awakened woman, but unreclaimed. We are awakened intellectually, but emotionally we're still in survival mode. And often we don't even realize it because we're so dissociated. Dissociation hides this missing step. It says, you're fine. You understand this. You're over it. It's still in self-protection. But underneath, the body is still running the old program. It's still freezing up. It's fawning and people-pleasing or shutting down the moment truth feels super risky. That's why even therapists, and I say this with so much love, can sit on the couch helping clients heal and then go home to loneliness, disconnection, or control dynamics. Not because they're hypocrites, but because they've awakened intellectually, not embodied it practically. And women in general, we are masters at serving everyone else with compassion while neglecting our own well-being. Because we've been taught that awareness is enough. But it's not. Awareness just wakes you up. It helps you understand. Reclamation moves you forward. And I think that's what makes this phase so exciting, because once you see this missing step, you can actually practice it. Not perfectly, but consistently, showing up over and over, and that's what changes everything. So, let's talk about what that looks like in real life. Slow down here because I want to take some time to give really simple and practical tools for how to start reconnecting with your intuition and build trust. Number one, we're going to start small. This allows your nervous system to slowly recalibrate to feeling safe and self-expression. Feeling safe when you say no or say, I want that or I don't want that. We're going to start with listening to the tiny impulses, tiny decisions day to day. What to eat, when to rest, who do you want to call? Each small truth teaches safety. I was working with a client this week talking about this concept, and then at the end of the session, we were working out when we would meet again. I gave her two options that I had available, and she said, whatever, both work, and then waited for me to decide. I just kindly looked at her and gave her space, and then she started to smile. She was, oh, I see. This is a small decision I need to make, right? Yes, exactly. Start practicing having a preference. In all of my courageous living containers, I talk often about how powerful these small choices are in learning to hear and follow your intuition and voice again. Flavor coffee do I want this morning? What color bra do I want to wear? Which perfume do I want to wear today? Is it a gold jewelry day or a silver jewelry day? Who do I feel like talking to? Calling my parents, my girlfriends from college, my bestie, no one? What feels best to me? What do I feel like cooking? Do I want to be adventurous with a new recipe or do I want to do something quick and easy? Feel into every choice. What do you want? It sounds so simple when I say this and talk about it, but it continues to blow my mind when working with clients that most women, when I ask them, what do you want? They stare at me with blank expressions. They have no idea what they actually want. And this is because we are conditioned from very early to focus on what we should be doing, what we should look like, how to please our parents, our youth pastor, our teacher, our coach, how to please a man so he will pick us. We are so focused making ourselves pleasing that we have no idea what we actually want. So now I'm telling you, when you start to practice wanting in your day-to-day routine, you will wake up desire in you and allow it to grow. It is in there. It is just dormant because it has not been allowed to form Yet, this is one of the primary reasons you are a prime target for a narcissist, because they thrive off someone who has no sense of self and will therefore lose themselves in the people they are around. It makes a perfect pairing, a person who has no idea who they are or what they want, and a person who is grandiose and needs everyone around them to focus on them and their needs. Unlearning this conditioning is the number one way to ensure you will never attract a narcissist again. This is so simple and so powerful. So start practicing now. What do I want? And teach your nervous system it is safe to explore and express your heart's desire, even the little ones, like what your favorite color is. So many women in narcissistic abuse recovery talk about how good it feels to finally be living in truth. Even if life is messy and uncertain, truth feels grounding and open, even though circumstantially things may be uncomfortable. I often describe it as standing on solid ground. When you don't have truth, you feel crazy, confused, unsure, and constantly doubting your reality. But when you're living in truth, even if it's hard, you don't feel crazy anymore. Truth feels clear. It feels like a solid ground under your feet. Falsehood, like pretending, performing, or suppressing, feels tight and heavy and disconnected. And I'll say this again and again because feeling the sensations in your body and trusting them is the only way to truly know yourself. What do you want? What do you value? Where are you going? But here's something I really want you to understand. Feeling nothing is not peace. When you've lived most of your life in survival mode, walking on eggshells, people pleasing, anticipating everyone's emotions, your body learns to equate numb with safe. At some point, probably very early, you gave up trying to be heard or seen. That initially created tension, sadness, and anger, but those emotions were too costly to hold on to, so your system shut them off. You dissociated. That's where vacancy begins. When things finally get quiet, when there's no conflict, when there's no chaos, no demands, you might be feeling empty rather than peace. That emptiness can easily be confused with peace. So let's make this practical. Here's how you can tell the difference in your everyday life. When you're in vacancy or emotional numbness, you might notice that you go through the motions, working, cleaning, scrolling, eating, but none of it moves you. Your face feels blank, even laughter feels forced or delayed. You lose track of time, zoning out for hours in front of a screen. You isolate. You want to be alone, not because you're resting, but because you just don't want to engage. You don't have the energy. You say, I'm fine automatically, but can't name a single feeling if somebody asks you. Music, movies, or sunsets that used to move you or inspire you just don't reach you anymore. You feel calm but unsatisfied, like you're missing something you can't quite name. You prefer being alone, not out of self-care, but because other people's emotions feel overwhelming or exhausting. When you're alone, the quiet feels empty instead of nourishing. Vacancy is the absence of danger. It's nothing bad is happening, but there's no pulse of life either. It's like being hungry, but forgetting what food tastes like, okay? But when you're in peace or regulation, it feels like this. The quiet feels alive. You're aware of your breath, the light in the room, the rhythm of your body. You can feel yourself. You can be alone without feeling lonely. Your own company feels comfortable. You can be with others and still feel connected to yourself. You're not scanning the room, managing the mood, or shrinking to fit in. You notice the beauty around you. A song moves you. A meal tastes delicious. A conversation feels nourishing. You enjoy simple moments without guilt. You can rest or read or go on a walk or just watch the sky. You feel energy building again, ideas, curiosity, creativity. You can hold conflicting feelings at once. You can feel calm and sad or content and longing without shutting down, without dissociating. You're not seeking distraction. You're experiencing presence. Peace is the presence of safety. It's when your body no longer needs to guard or escape. It can just be. Most women I work with say, I love being alone. and then realize what they really actually mean is it's the only time I can stop managing everyone else's emotions. That's vacancy, the absence of danger. Peace is different. Peace is being alone and feeling love, connection with yourself, taking yourself on a spa day, savoring a delicious meal, reading a book because it brings you joy. You feel the experience. You may be doing all the same things as a vacant person, but you feel alive and present in what you're doing. Peace is also being in a room with others and feeling content. You can laugh, you can enjoy, you're in the experience instead of in your head thinking about how you look, what you should say, or whether anyone around you is upset. Peace is being, not performing, not avoiding, just the ability to be. This awareness, learning to tell vacancy from peace, is one of the cornerstones of courageous living, because you can't reclaim yourself if you're confusing disconnection with healing, if you're staying in that dissociated place. In the digital studio I offer, there's a meditation from empty to alive. It's designed to help your body expand gently, reconnecting you to sensations in a small and safe way so that you can move from numbness to true peace, from absence to presence, from surviving to thriving. Also, I want you to consider grace for when you mess up. You'll slip back into old reflexes. Don't shame yourself. Pause, name it, recommit. Trust grows through repair, not perfection. Just like when on a diet, those who are successful in their weight loss journey don't freak out if they have a bad day. They just move forward and eat whole, nourishing food at the next meal. These are the daily micro moments that rebuild integrity with yourself. I have a woman in my one-on-one courageous journey. She said, Janice, I am terrified to date again because I don't trust myself to choose differently. For years, she rationalized red flags herself. She was too sensitive. Every time she overrode her gut, the self-betrayal just deepened. When she began honoring her body's cues, leaving when a conversation felt off, pausing before feeling like she needed to explain herself, something changed. She told me, I don't feel fearless. I'm still scared, but I can finally feel if I'm truly happy when I'm on a date. Oh my God, this is such a big deal. That is reclamation, not perfection. It's alignment. It's connection. She is with herself fully. Okay, next I want to talk a little bit about boundaries. When most women first start setting boundaries, they're somewhat defensive in nature. They often sound like, I will never let this happen again. I won't let anyone treat me this way again. I'm done with people who don't respect me. That is a great place to start. It's not that that's bad. That's a good phase. That's a vital stage, actually, of healing. Those boundaries are like a cast after a broken bone. They protect what's fragile until it can bear weight again. But once the bone heals, you don't need to keep that cast on forever. That kind of perspective, it's defensive in nature. You take it off, you stretch, you rebuild strength, and move freely again. That's what this reclamation process does. It transforms boundaries from protection to expansion. Defensive boundaries say, I'm keeping the bad out. Expansive boundaries say, I'm protecting what helps me grow. I'm for me. I'm open and I am going to express myself. Expressive boundaries are about energy, not about fear. They're not about who you block out. They're about what you build in. They make space for peace, creativity, rest, laughter, spontaneity, and love. When your boundaries are expansive, they reflect your values, who you are. Let's look at what that looks like in real life. Here's one example. It's an emotional boundary. So it starts in protection. I'm not talking to my ex anymore. He doesn't deserve access to me. That's healthy, especially at first. But eventually it evolves into something deeper. The expansive version of that is, I reserve my emotional energy for people who can meet me with honesty and respect. Do you see this shift? You're no longer motivated by anger or defense. You're guided by clarity and self-respect. That boundary doesn't just protect you from harm, it attracts healthy people into your life. You're able to connect with others in a really beautiful way. Look at a time boundary. The protective boundary says, I can't handle people right now, so I'm saying no to everything. That's okay when you need space. when you are just learning how to set boundaries. But when your system stabilizes, your boundary can expand into the expansive boundary looks like, I build my week around what nourishes me. I build time for work, rest, play, and solitude. You're not isolating, you're organizing your life around your well-being. You stop waiting for burnout to force rest and start scheduling rest as your baseline. That's how peace begins to feel safe because you're actively protecting it, okay? So let's look at a relational boundary. The protective boundary says, I'm done with friendships that drain me. Necessary, yes, you're learning how to protect yourself. But here's what the expansive version of that look like. The expansive boundary says, I invest in friendships that feel reciprocal, where support flows both ways. Instead of scanning for red flags, you're planting green ones. Share laughter, mutual respect, people who celebrate your joy without envy. You're not walking on eggshells anymore. You're walking into alignment. You're establishing who you are, and you're inviting anyone on that vibration to come connect with you. Okay, let's look at work. The protective boundary at work. I'm not answering emails after 5, period. Strong, sometimes necessary, but eventually you can evolve that boundary into an expansive expression. I design my workday around how I function best. I give my best energy to what matters most. You stop reacting to work stress and start intentionally building balance. Maybe a midday walk, lunch away from your desk, or no meetings on Fridays. You're not escaping work. You're reclaiming your rhythm and saying what you need and holding that energy. All right, and then let's look internally. This one is the quietest and the most powerful. The protective boundary says, I'm not letting anyone manipulate me ever again. So understandable and needed initially. The expansive version of that is, I refuse to manipulate myself by pretending I'm fine when I'm not, by pushing when I need rest, by saying yes when I mean no. Expansive boundaries start inside. They're not about controlling the world. They're about honoring your truth, moment to moment, and expressing it. So how do we know if we're moving from protective to expansive? You stop using boundaries as a weapon. You can't treat me like that. And start using them as a compass. This is what supports my peace. You stop apologizing for needing them. You feel less reactive. Boundaries become natural, not dramatic. You don't need to explain them endlessly. You simply just live by them. You notice that your relationships feel calmer, lighter, and more mutual. That's the mark of reclamation. So here are a few practical ways to practice this week. Number 1, start small. Identify one area that feels overextended, your calendar, your social life, your mental load, and ask, what would expansion look like here? 2, this is big. Align with your values. Write down 3 things that matter most to you: peace, honesty, growth, creativity, family. Use those as filters for what gets your time and energy. Okay, number 3, practice consistency. Boundaries aren't announcements. They're not habits. Don't say, I need to rest more. Schedule it. Do it. Don't say, I'm no longer taking on everyone's problems. Actually, literally stop replying to texts during your rest times. Do it, okay? And number 4, celebrate your small wins. Each time you honor your limit or choose rest, notice and lean into the relief that you feel. That's your nervous system learning safety and truth. All right, I'm going to move now into the cost of skipping this work. If you stop here, if you awaken but never reclaim, never put it into action, you will end up repeating these same patterns, but just in a different or maybe prettier package. You'll call it growth because it looks different, but the energy underneath hasn't changed. That's why you keep cycling through one narcissist after another. You'll have awareness without embodiment. You'll be able to explain your trauma in perfect language. You'll know every trigger, every attachment style, every red flag. But when life hits, you're still feeling powerless. And that gap between what you know and how you're actually living is what keeps people stuck for years. That's why we slow down here, because awareness without action just recreates old stories and more frustration because you know different, but you're not doing different. Call this like the prettier packaging pattern. When you awaken, but don't yet reclaim, you might leave the toxic marriage, but immediately enter a relationship with someone emotionally unavailable because it feels familiar. Even though maybe this person is totally different on the outside, they're still inside detached and emotionally unavailable. Maybe you change jobs, but find yourself overworking, overperforming, and burnout in the same way, just under a new boss and a new office. Maybe you're making new friends, but still choose people who drain you because you're still defining your worth by being needed. Let's say you start a new health or self-care routine, but use it to prove your worth instead of connecting to yourself. It looks different on the outside, but inside it's the same pattern on repeat over and over. You've simply traded one form of self-abandonment for another, and it's frustrating and overwhelming. A client once told me, I finally left my ex and I swore I'd never be with someone like that again, but somehow I found a man who's quieter, calmer, yes, and yet I feel the same tightness in my chest. Different personality, same dynamic. Because until she reclaimed her voice, her boundaries, her self-trust, she was still operating from that unconscious need to prove her worth by being chosen. That's what happens when we awaken intellectually in our mind, but we don't embody it in our body emotionally. We see the pattern, but we can't stop living it no matter what we do. Another very common place this shows up is with helpers, with therapists, with healers. You might get trained, certified, and start helping others heal. And you genuinely mean it. You're really good at what you do, but deep down, you're still rescuing. You pour into your clients, into your friends, into your coworkers, but neglect your own body, your own rest, your own pleasure. You can talk about boundaries all day long, but you still feel guilty doing it yourself. I call performative healing. You know the steps, but you're still doing them for validation. Your nervous system is still wired for I matter when I give. That's why this phase, the reclamation, is so damn essential. It's where the language of healing becomes the lifestyle of healing. It becomes the embodiment, the expression of who you are. Sometimes women tell me, I've started over, new city, new house, new job, but I still feel like the same person. That's the cost of skipping embodiment. The scenery changes, but the story does not. It's like moving into a new country, but only packing old furniture. Everything looks fresh, but you're still living with the same shit in the house. Reclamation is not the unpacking of the shit. It is the part of the journey where you stop curating the same stuff over and over, and you start cultivating your new internal self. So here's some signs that you might be stuck in awakening. You understand your trauma, but you can't seem to stop repeating old behaviors. You keep saying, I know better, but you feel guilty every time you prioritize yourself. You're craving peace, but feel restless when things are calm. You can teach boundaries, but rarely hold your own. You start to heal, then sabotage it by rushing back into busyness, distraction, or drama. This is what happened when the mind wakes up, but the body hasn't yet learned that safety exists in truth, in alignment and integrity with your mind and body. That's why you can't think your way through reclamation. You have to practice doing your way through it, moment by moment. In courageous living, this is where we focus on slowing down intentionally, deliberately, so the nervous system can catch up with your awareness in your mind. That means doing the daily work of embodiment, setting the small boundaries and staying present through the discomfort, feeling the fear of someone's disappointment and not rushing to fix it, letting yourself rest when your body is tired without earning it first, allowing joy, pleasure, and curiosity back into your routine, even if your brain whispers, you don't deserve this. Every time you do this, you send your body a new message. I'm not just surviving, I'm safe to thrive. I'm safe to be alive. And that's the shift that changes everything. If you stop at awakening, you'll always understand your pain, but you'll never truly outgrow it. If you commit to this reclamation, you begin living from your power and being future focused and not your past. Awareness helps you see the truth, but embodiment lets you live it. That's why we don't rush this part, because this right here is where the real transformation happens. This is why you see some people getting it, making it, and you still feel left behind. Your body is fluent in the language of truth. We just have to practice it so we can hear it again. The more you practice these small intentions of truth daily, the faster your nervous system recognizes authenticity as safety. As self-trust grows, life starts to open. You spend less time performing and wondering and feeling stuck, and more time just being present. You stop apologizing for emotions. You stop chasing validation. You begin choosing peace on purpose. And it's not that everything becomes easy. It's that you stop abandoning yourself when it's hard. You can manage the hard. It's not overwhelming anymore. This is courageous living. This is what courageous living looks like. Not calm because nothing hurts and nothing's going on, but be calm because you're calm because you're anchored in yourself. Reclamation is the turning point in your healing. Everything before built awareness. Everything after builds expansion. If you want tools to help you practice this between episodes, download my free guide, Finally at Peace. You'll find reflection prompts and nervous system tools that strengthen self-trust day by day. And when you're ready to go deeper, I have the digital studio that's there for self-guided integration. The reset experience is a 60-day curated experience that where I hold your hand through it. And then, of course, I have a one-on-one journey where it's personalized transformation, just me and you. Each path leads to the same destination, living your truth without fear. If you're here learning to trust yourself again, speaking truth without apology, and honoring your body's wisdom, you are reclaiming your life. You are no longer defined by what happened to you. You're defined by what you choose next. So tonight or today or this morning or whenever you're watching this, ask yourself, what part of me am I ready to reclaim? Because it's all still there, waiting for you just beneath the survival mode that you're living in. Okay, next time we close out this series, the last episode is what I call the freedom phase, where everything you've learned comes together. This is the phase where you stop chasing peace and start living it daily. When you build a life that's still messy, it's still imperfect, but it is fully yours. You're fully alive. A life lived on purpose, with power, gratitude, and intention, because after everything you've walked through, you know what not having freedom costs you. Now you're ready to live like you've reclaimed it. If today's episode resonated with you, please give it a thumbs up or leave a comment. That helps so much in getting this video to other women who are ready to reclaim their lives and who need it. Please be sure that you hit subscribe so that you don't miss the final episode of this series. And until next time, remember, your intuition is wise. Your boundaries are sacred and expansive, and your life is yours to reclaim. I'll see you next time.